Morning, everyone. We're starting to let people in. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Nashville. It's a little cold outside, but the sun's out. It's going to be a great day because I have Lonnell Matthews, our juvenile court clerk, on today's call. We're glad everybody's here. Lonnell, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right, Vice Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm been running around this morning. We were talking before the overflow shelter that is open when it gets 32 degrees or below for the city was open last night. And they had 158 people. Wow. I think it was the biggest crowd of the year. And, you know, it's funny because last year, February was the month that it was so cold. Yeah. But November, we've had this period right now where it's, you know, the temperatures are dipping. But we'll tell you, for those of you who don't really know what that is, when it gets really cold outside, the city operates or opens up a overflow shelter, because we have like the room in the inn and we have the mission, but some people for different reasons can't go, and so Metro opens up a shelter. It's done through Metro Social Services, Renee Pratt, and they open the doors at 7 o'clock in the evening. They provide a warm meal, place to sleep, breakfast in the morning, bus passes, and they'll open up again tonight. So
it's such a great need. It is. Yeah. It just shows that, you know, when we get to this type of weather, what the real need in the city is, and we probably just think about the people that aren't able to access it or just not near it or not being able to access those services.
Well, it's so important, because obviously I was walking around last night, had a wedding reception to go to, and I was downtown, and it's really cold. Think about trying to stay warm in that type of atmosphere or that situation. You know, again, kudos to Metro and Social Services and Metro Homeless Impact Division for doing that. Well, we've got a few minutes before we actually get started. I know that Brenda Wynn, our county clerk, is on. She gets on these programs to make sure that we don't make mistakes. So Brenda's on today.
Is she the iPhone 10?
I don't know which one she is, but she is on somewhere. All right. So Lonnell, I usually ask an irrelevant question. I love the clock that's behind your head. But right now it's 5 till 7. According to the so I know we're a little early, but what's the story behind the clock?
So funny story. My family, we just moved a couple of weeks ago, and my wife is and her mother are at our home cleaning, and they said I would not have a quiet place to do the call this morning, and so I came over to my parents' house, and so this is a clock that my mother's really into antique furniture and design, and so you'll see a lot of Queen Anne furniture around this house, and she just loves antique like design, and so the clock is just part of her mystique, her ambiance that she's created at this house.
Does she know that it's not working?
She does. It's just for aesthetic purposes.
It's just for decoration. Okay.
It is.
Well, it's a beautiful clock, and I was going to say, if she needs me to give her a battery,
give some batteries. I've offered several times.
All right, you see if you can do that. All right, so Lonnell Matthews, our juvenile court clerk, is our guest today. We're going to talk about being the clerk at juvenile court and kind of what that means. And we'll also talk about the current campus now, and what I think is hopefully going to happen sometime relatively in the next several years in terms of expanding that facility. And then you're heavily involved in My Brother's Keeper, which is a program designed, I think, to help at-risk youth. Yeah. And I'd love to learn more about it. So, but I always start these conversations with, Lonnell, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think are you from Nashville originally?
I am. I'm a Nashville native, and so I'll try to make this quick and not give you the long version. But I'm Lonnell Matthews. I grew up in North Nashville. Actually grew up in between 11th and 12th Avenue North on Cecilia Avenue. If you're familiar with Hull Jackson Elementary or John Early Middle School, where they're located, actually used to be a park when I grew up, and I lived right beside that park where those schools are now located. My parents, I grew up in a two-parent household. My mother's from Gallatin, Tennessee. My father's from Nashville. They met at Austin Peay University. I was conceived a couple months after they got married, and in 1979. And right after I was conceived, my parents moved to Chicago. My grandfather was actually living in Chicago at the time, and we moved to Chicago for about 4 years. My brother was born up in Illinois, and after 4 years, my mom's mother, my grandmother, Mary, she got breast cancer, and we moved back once she passed from breast cancer. My mother was the oldest of 6 siblings, and so she felt the need and responsibility to be closer with her siblings once their mother passed. And so we moved back to Nashville, and I really don't remember much about Chicago other than being able to visit my grandfather and getting Chicago Bulls paraphernalia every Christmas from him. But went to lots of schools in Nashville. I was part of the busing system. So Andrew Jackson Elementary, I actually went to Warden for middle school. This before, well, I don't even know if we had middle school. We had 5th and 6th grade schools, which I guess would be considered middle schools. And then we had junior high still back then. Went to Bellevue for 7th grade. And after 7th grade, my parents moved to Bordeaux. And so I had to transfer for 8th grade in junior high and transfer to UM Park. And after UM Park, I went to Martin Luther King Magnet School, which was probably one of the best parenting decisions my parents ever made. But I fought them tooth and nail because we had just moved to a new neighborhood. I just made new friends in 8th grade. All my friends were going to Rice Creek. I wanted to go to Rice Creek, and they waited till the last day of 8th grade to tell me, you're going to MLK. And so it was a surprise to me. I didn't know they were even applying to send me to MLK. But one of the best parenting decisions. I loved MLK. It really prepared me for college. And I met some of my lifelong friends at MLK, friends to this day. After college, did undergrad at Tennessee State University, the Tennessee State University. And so I'm kind of Nashville to the core.
Yeah.
You know, I did apply to go to FAMU. I was going to go to HBCU. I knew that was going to be my choice. TSU offered me a full scholarship, so I couldn't really refuse the scholarship that came with it, but got accepted to both FAMU and TSU. I majored in accounting and business law, and I started working part-time for the YMCA my junior year of college. I was working in the after-school programs and really loved that job. After December 05, when I graduated, I went right into tax season working for an accounting firm. I hated it. And that following summer, I went right back to the Y full-time, working in after-school programs. And at that time, the Y was just a job for me. I was too immature, I think, but I wasn't thinking about career. I just needed something that would pay my bills, pay my rent. And it was a good job. I loved what I was doing. I didn't mind going to work. And so working with kids was something that just had become a passion for me. But after a while, once I started going through training and development, they started putting me in leadership classes. Something clicked, and it definitely became a career. It was something I could see myself doing long term, moving up at the Y, helping the Y become a better organization. That ultimately became my goal. But halfway through my career at the Y, well, I shouldn't skip this part. 2006, which I was probably at the Y for about 6 or 7 years, unfortunate incident happened to my family, and my brother was shot and killed. It was March 30th, 2006, and it was really significant because, well, it was significant anyway, but one thing that really made it a tragedy is 3 weeks before the incident, he had a daughter. And it was my parents' first grandchild. And so You know, we were in the midst of celebrating her birth, and then 3 weeks later, we are mourning his death. And so, you know, that year 2006 was a really tough year for me. I went through deep depression. I was really trying to figure out. I was 26 years old. I was 4 years older than he was, and I was still young enough to where I was like, I was thinking to myself, what does my life really mean? You know, for his life to be taken at such a young age, am I really being intentional on the legacy that I want to leave this world with, and the impact that I'm going to have on this world? And I guess I was very vulnerable during that time. And so, not saying this friend took advantage of my vulnerability, but I think he was just trying to help me cope and kind of figure things out. But a good friend of mine, Alfred DeGraffery, which you know, I'm sure you know, Vice Mayor, we were college buddies. He was a year younger than me at TSU, and he was a political science major, so he was all into government and politics and what was going on. And the 2007 mayor's race was really steaming up, and so he was working in my Howard Gentry's mayoral campaign office, and he asked me to go to dinner one night, and at that dinner, I thought he was gonna. So, funny thing about Howard is Howard would always come to TSU and recruit students to work on his campaign as volunteers. And so I'm one of Howard's fraternity brothers, and he would always come to our fraternity meetings or catch us hanging out in the park and just drive up on us and say, "Hey, I'm running for office. I need y'all's help. Come and help me out." And I thought this was just a fancy way of Howard having Alfred come to ask me to volunteer on his mayoral campaign. Had no idea why he asked me out, but at that dinner, he said, "You know, we've been talking around the office. We think you should run for a Metro Council in District 1." And I said, "Man, you got to be kidding me. I've never thought about doing anything like that." And I was really embarrassed to tell him that I didn't know how to put my name on the ballot. So I told him I would think about it. And I planned on not talking to him for 3 months until after the deadline had passed, and he had forgotten about the conversation. But he really did a good job of making the case for why I should run. He told me, you know, you have to be 25. I was 26. It was the first year I was even eligible to run. It was the first year that term limits impacted the council. So the incumbent, which was Brenda Gilmore, she couldn't run for re-election for the seat. I was living in the district I actually grew up in, which was unique because I already had relationships with people and my parents had relationships with people. And that was kind of the trigger, because I started asking people at the grocery store or asking people at my church, "Hey, somebody told me I should think about running for council. What do you think about that?" And once enough people encouraged and said I should do it, I was young and naive and didn't know any better. And so I called the election commission. I said, "Hey, how do I put my name on the ballot?" They told me how to fill out a petition. And I said, let's go to work and put my name on the ballot, put a good team around me, and we end up winning that race. And so I was elected to the Metro Council in 2007, served representing District 1 from 2007 to 2015. Had various roles on the council, was budget and finance chair, chaired education committee, chaired parks and rec committees, was president of the minority caucus at one point, served as president pro tempore. I really enjoyed my time on the council. I served with Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors. I remember, Vice Mayor, you were actually pulled in, and I think not my first time meeting you, but my first time really having some real interaction was you were pulled in to kind of facilitate a discussion about the fairgrounds. And everyone really touted your ability to kind of bring people together where there was conflict, and your mediation skills. And so I really enjoy, really getting to know you through a little better through that process. And now we're good friends. But yeah, enjoyed my time on the council. I ran for council at large. I just thought that was the natural next thing you do after your term limited from a district seat. But I was unsuccessful in 2015. And the election night, I remember having a conversation. Megan Berry called me. She had won her race, and I was congratulating her. And she said, "I'm sorry you didn't win your race, but I want you to think about coming to work for me in the mayor's office. Let's talk later." In 3 weeks, we had a conversation, and I ended up making the decision to go and direct the mayor's office of neighborhoods and community engagement, and really enjoyed the opportunity to uh, learn government from a different perspective. From the executive branch, going from the legislative branch to the executive branch, it was much different work. It was much different approach to government. But I was able to transfer a lot of skills that I learned being a Metro Council person into that position, to really try to do the best work that I could to make our neighborhoods the best neighborhoods in the country, frankly. One significant thing I got to do when I was in the mayor's office was develop the Hub Nashville system. And that's something I'm probably most proud of, was working with our Metro IT department, working with Public Works, working with really all the departments on what Hub Nashville would look like and how we really would revamp that 311 response system, constituent response system. And so proud of that work. But in 2017, I was also the criminal justice policy advisor to Mayor Berry. And so we were working on the budget. She had a question for Judge Callaway. She asked me if I could make the call and try to get the question answered. So I called Judge Callaway one morning, and Judge Callaway answered the phone, and she said, just heard my clerk was retiring. Are you calling me because you're thinking about running for his seat? And I said, no, I didn't. My predecessor was David Smith. I said, I didn't know he was thinking about retiring. I actually called you with a budget question. Let's have that conversation. Maybe I'll call you back this afternoon to talk about the opportunity of possibly being the juvenile court clerk. It was really intriguing to me because my love for youth development and my love for government, I had grown a love for government. I had made the choice to leave the Y and transition into government full time, working in the mayor's office. And it was an opportunity for me to actually have both passions ingrained into one position. And that was really the attraction. Once I ran it past my boss, my wife, and some other family members, and they told me that they would be supportive. I threw my name in the hat for juvenile court clerk, and in 2018, I was elected as the first African-American juvenile court clerk. I'll conclude by saying, I have a wife and two kids. My wife, Jahari, she is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. She's a rock star herself. I won't give her background. She could probably come on and do that herself one day. But our two kids, Ari is our son. He's our oldest. He's 8 years old. And Pilar is our daughter. She's 6. They're both students at Purpose Preparatory Academy in North Nashville and Metro Center. And they're smart as a whip, and they are really how I see the world. I see the world through their eyes now. And being a parent has been a different experience for me, and one that I certainly welcome. And family is definitely the top priority in my life at this moment. But with that, I'll kind of shut up and let you ask me some questions.
We're gonna start asking you more questions. Well, tell me a little bit. Okay, so timing is everything. You made the phone call to Judge Callaway, and then you ended up running for juvenile court clerk. So for people who don't understand, what does the clerk do for juvenile court? What is that role? And then how do you interact with juvenile court? How does all that work?
Sure. So it's a highly administrative clerical position. So my office we have 31 staff members that I supervise. I am the keeper of records for the court. That is a state mandate for any clerk of court, is to be the keeper of records. So the process and the collaboration that we have with juvenile court here in Davidson County, we kind of divide that into 3 main functions. We have our records clerks that are kind of the face of our office. They're the public face of our office. They're probably the first interaction people have when they come to court. So anyone that brings a conflict to court and you want to take that before a judge or a magistrate, you start in our office by filing a petition. And then if you have any additions or changes to that petition, you can file a motion for any changes. Or if you have an order, you have an agreement, you can file the orders through our office. But our record clerks, they process those filings. They build the files, they maintain the files, they set the dates, they create the dockets for the judges. Then we staff each judge in the courtroom with a clerk, and we call those minute clerks. They are courtroom clerks, and so they basically keep a record of what's happening in court. They inform all the parties to a case of anything that any communication that comes from the judge or magistrate, and they make sure that everyone is abreast of whatever orders may come out of court or hearings. The third function is we are the fee office for court. I tell people in juvenile court, we really don't assess many fees. A lot of fees in juvenile court are at the discretion of the judge or magistrates, but young people really don't have the resources to pay fines and fees. Most young people that come to court aren't working. If we're being honest about the criminal justice system, I would say on average in any court, about 50 to 60% of fees that are assessed go uncollected. You're just putting financial burden on people, you're putting extra stress on a system that really should be trying to help get people to a better resolution at the end of the day. And so we don't assess a lot of fees. We do have state mandated fees like petition filing fees that we have to collect, and we collect those fees in our bookkeeping office. But the main function of our bookkeeping office is we're the custodians of victim compensation trust accounts for young people that are created. So the example I like to give, and it's not a great example, I'm gonna have to find another example. If a young person is riding their bike and they unfortunately get hit by a car, but they're okay, and they go to court, the court grants them restitution, we actually are the custodians of those funds until that young person turns 18. So we put those funds in an interest-bearing account so that they could gain interest. And once they're 18, they could come encroach on the funds and we transfer the funds over to them. We do about $1.7 million in victim compensation trust accounts annually. And at any given time, we average around 230 accounts that we're managing. So those are the basic functions of the juvenile court clerk's office. Judge Calloway and I think we have a pretty unique relationship as clerk and judge, to where we tend to collaborate a lot more on things outside of just those normal functions. For instance, she has allowed me to go and work with our detention staff and detention vendor on some of the educational programs that they have been putting back in the detention center. This was just something that came up in conversation. I went to meet with Dr. Shauna Jackson, the president of Nashville State Community College, about criminal justice interns coming into our office. I just wanted to have a meeting with her. And she actually brought up, she said, hey, do you all have a school in your detention center? And I said, yes, we do. It's a private vendor that works with MMPS. MMPS hires a private vendor that comes in and provides the educational services. And she said, well, do you all offer any dual enrollment courses to where those students are earning credit toward college courses? I said, no. I said, is that a possibility? And she said, yeah, they're doing it in Cook County, in Illinois, in Chicago, the Chicago area. And so I went back and did some research. I looked into it, and I went to Judge Calloway. I said, hey, you probably don't have time to deal with this, but I would love to work with detention staff and Dr. Jackson to see if we could get dual enrollment courses going in our detention center. And of course, all this was happening right before the pandemic, but we got it started right before the pandemic. During the pandemic, we had some hiccups to where we weren't able to continue because we really didn't have the infrastructure and the supports built in for it to survive during the pandemic. But we are getting back to having those conversations of reinstituting what the work that we started, and just being able to do things like that outside of my normal functions really fulfills and gives me sort of that reward at the end of the day.
Well, so tell folks, because I understand why you're doing it, and the idea of pushing things like innovation, bringing people together is really, really good. For people, when you talk about, people who are new to juvenile court, most people think of juvenile court of, somebody has done something bad and they end up going into the process. So tell what kind of cases are actually come into the juvenile court clerk? So if something happens where a teenager has committed some type of what would normally be, I guess, considered a crime, whether it's an adult or a juvenile, not a status offense, or maybe you handle status offenses as well. What are who is showing up in juvenile court, and what are you having to process?
So we just had the freshman career exploration fair for MNPS this past week, and a lot of the young students that come to the career fair, they see our booth, they see juvenile court, and they start to run the other way. And we have to pull them over to talk to us, and it's mainly because they also have the stigma that juvenile court is just about juvenile delinquency, and that's the main part of the business that we do. But that's actually the smallest part of the business that we do at juvenile court. We have about, so judge likes to break this down into 2/3 of the conflict that or the business that we deal with in juvenile court actually are parent issues. And 1/3 of the issues that we deal with in juvenile court are juvenile issues that are the juveniles are mainly responsible for. Or I shouldn't say juvenile, youth offenders are mainly responsible for. So parentage issues could be, it could be visitation, it could be custody, it could be child support. Those type of issues are a majority of what we hear at juvenile court. It could also be neglect and dependency. So child abuse and neglect are also considered issues that are parent issues that impact or affect the child, but they're issues that have come to court because of actions of the parents. And so that's the majority of what we deal with. When it comes to juvenile issues, the other 1/3 is breaking down into delinquency and status offenses. So we do hear both. Delinquency could be what normally you would consider your major crimes. It could be theft, it could be vandalism, it could be homicide. Those you could have more serious sexual assault, some of the more serious crimes. A status offense is going to be an offense because of someone's age. So out past curfew, I could be out past 12 p.m. and the police aren't going to say anything to me as an adult. But if a young person is out past 12 p.m. on a weekday and they're not with their parent, then they're out past curfew. And so that's going to be an offense, and they're going to be cited, and they're going to have to come to court.
The vice mayor has a curfew of 10 o'clock. They don't want the vice mayor. On weeknights, it's 9. All right. So you've got a lot of parental issues flying around. At the same time, you also have specifically things that deal just with the juvenile themselves.
Yes, I joke with people and say they should really call it parent court because that's the majority of the business that we do.
Yeah.
Family court.
How many you have? So Judge Calloway is the juvenile court judge. She's elected to be in that position. How many? But they're also, do you call them magistrates, or are they referred to as judges? How many magistrates are there?
So there are 9 magistrates now. Judicial officer. Everyone is a judicial officer.
Okay.
But their magistrates are appointed by the elected judge, and so to sit as judicial officers in the court. We have 1 elected judge, 9 magistrates. One of our magistrates is a part-time magistrate. It's a new program called Safe Babies Court that is grant funded through the administration, of course, the Tennessee Supreme Court. That has been going very well, and we hope that they expand that program to become a full-time magistrate pretty soon.
And I think we talked to, I think Judge Calloway had mentioned that at one point. What is the Safe Babies Court? What is that? What is that court designed to do?
So it's specifically designed to, so they deal mostly with neglect and dependency cases. So parents that may have substance abuse issues, may have, so you have neglect and dependency cases, but neglect and dependency cases for young people from birth to age 3, those are critical brain development years. And the science says and research says that the more time that a child could spend with their parents during those ages, the better for their development. And so the purpose of Safe Babies Court is to try to have the least amount of time that a child may be separated from their parents for neglect and dependency. So, you may have to intervene, separate the children for a period of time, but how quickly can we get the parent the resources, support, and programs that they need so that we could try to place that child back with that parent as quickly as possible, and address the root issue of why they came to court in the first place.
Let me ask you this. I mean, because that's an interesting problem. You've got a lot of stuff going on. The number of cases that come into juvenile court each year, or that are coming through your office, and that's going to lead to the question about your campus. But I mean, as the city grows, my guess would be there's a lot more stuff coming in your way. So is that right?
Yeah, we're seeing about 48,000 hearings.
Yeah.
A year. And during COVID, so I don't think the need went away during COVID, but COVID, we had to manage the number of people that were in the building at a time. And so we did experience for some time a backlog, and we're still trying to catch up with the timing of from the time people file a petition to get in front of the judge and hearing. So there was kind of a lag in the number of hearings that we could hear because we scheduled cases down to the half hour during COVID to manage the number of people in the building at one time. But we're slowly chipping away at that backlog and trying to get back on a regular schedule. The normal time before pre-COVID was about 45 days. You file a petition, 45 days gave us time to make sure the other party got service, everyone could be in court, and we could get you in front of a judge or magistrate. Right now, we're at about 3 months. So it shows you the amount of time we have to catch up for.
So let me ask you this. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time in juvenile court, but I have been over there. Your offices are, I'm not sure if I know where the judge's office is. As you come into the main building, are your offices over to the right on the bottom floor, or are you someplace else in the building?
So we're on the ground floor. When you come into the main doors, you're actually on the first floor, which is not the ground floor. But yeah, we're one floor below. The offices to the right, that's our intake division. And so intake, they're supervised by Judge Calloway. They actually take in delinquency cases when they come into the court. They also file or N&D cases that are reported. They process those petitions as well for the court.
Okay, so I've noticed, I guess I haven't, maybe it's been a while since I've been down to your all's offices, but I noticed that the current building just seems really, really cramped. And I know that I think Metro is going to get you a new space. And I don't think I've ever seen a picture of exactly the new space. It's going to be out on Brick Church Pike? Is that where it's going to be located?
That's correct. And there isn't a picture yet because we just started the design phase for the new facility 2 weeks ago. But just talking about the current facility before I talk about the new facility, the current facility was built in 1994. I can't really anticipate. I think Nashville's population may have been around 400,000, 500,000 maybe at the most back then. But we were built with the idea that we would have one elected judge and 3 appointed magistrates. And so you had that many courtrooms built into the building. It was built to house in our pretrial housing facility about 20 young people at a time. Think about today, just in respects to the idea of how this current building was built. We just talked about the number of magistrates. We have 1 elected judge, 9 appointed magistrates, not 3. We house about 45 youth average a day in our pretrial housing facility. CASA, court appointed special advocates, actually used to be housed in the court. We had to push them out and they're a nonprofit, but they had to find their own facility because we had to shift and make spaces into courtrooms. We literally have a room that was a storage closet at one point that has been converted into a courtroom just to make room. And now we're at 2 facilities because when Carl Dean was mayor, he opened up the Metro Student Attendance Center, which became our truancy court room as well on Trinity Lane. And so we definitely have outgrown the space. There's not a lot of private space for attorneys to consult with clients. If they want to meet with clients, they have to do it in an open lobby where everyone could hear their conversations. Staff are sitting on top of each other. We have infrastructure problems. That building was flooded in 2010. And so the plumbing infrastructure has never really truly been repaired to the point where we don't have ongoing issues with sewage backup and sewage actually being in office spaces at different times. And so, you know, there are lots of reasons for the city to need a new facility for juvenile court, which have been laid out. The council, grateful. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you hear that?
No.
Okay, good. My AirPods are working. My phone's ringing, but it's on the other side of the room, and I don't want to get up and run and get it. No, so the council gratefully really heard all of the points we made about why a new facility is needed and why it should be a priority in the city. And a year ago, the council approved a capital spending plan that allowed us to get funding to purchase the property off 1354 Brick Church Pike. It's the site of the old Almena Shrine Temple. It's a beautiful 14-acre campus, which really allows us to be able to take Judge Calloway's full vision into what we're building as the National Youth Campus for Empowerment. So it not only is going to house a new juvenile court clerk's office and a new juvenile court, but we're going from around 94,000 square feet to 286,000 square feet in facilities. And so, and not just in one facility on the campus, we will have court, we will have pretrial dormitory housing, we will have something new for the city, which we don't currently have. It's a 24-hour assessment center for youth in crisis. So those status offenses I talked about, currently, if a kid is picked up on a status offense, they're taken to our detention center, which is not where they should be. And we can't house them there. So we hold them there. We call their parents and tell them to come pick them up. And we just cite them and give them a court date. And they probably most likely go on probation for a period of time. But what they really should be getting is some assessment of why they committed the status offense in the first place and direct connection to programs and services in the community that could address whatever root problem comes out of those assessments. And so runaways, anyone out past curfew, anyone buying cigarettes at the corner store and shouldn't be, or alcohol at the corner store and shouldn't be, they have an assessment center to be able to address substance abuse issues or whatever issue there may be. The third facility that we're looking at putting on the campus is a therapeutic visitation and safe exchange facility. Therapeutic visitation is kind of self-explanatory. There's specialized visitation that's sometimes ordered in court. And we want any parent that has to do that type of visitation to be able to do it in a home environment, not in a sterile office, institutionalized kind of office space. We want them to be able to have a kitchen or kind of a living room set up. And if their child is coming to visit them, have this home feel. And so it will be built kind of like a townhome or condo to where they could have those type of facilities. But the safe exchange piece of that same facility is really to address, so right now, if parents have any type of domestic situation where order of protection is needed or in place, they have to do a safe exchange, usually at a police precinct. But it's pretty traumatizing for a child to say, hey, every time I'm going to see my other parent, I have to go to the police precinct. And that's just not a good way for a child to even be thinking about that transition between parents. And so this facility will also be a safe exchange place to where parents could exchange out in a home environment, something that's comfortable, that's not that's trauma informed, that's going to really give the child a greater experience.
I know that you all, your office, Judge Calloway's office, have kind of just now I mean, she's got kind of an overall vision, but you've now just started working on kind of what this whole thing is going to look like. What's the time frame? Probably two questions: the time frame, and then I guess you would be looking at other places around the country in terms of best practices, evidence-based practices, about how we actually design this new thing so that it does innovative work, and it provides a much better opportunity for some of these young people.
No, great question. So the time frame is we're looking at about 3-year build out. So we have started the architect and design phase, and hopefully in the next 9 to 12 months, we will start to have renderings of what the building might look like aesthetically, what the campus might look like, some of the infrastructure that we'll have to put in. We're being very thoughtful of not only the needs that we have as juvenile court and the clerk's office, but we're being thoughtful about the infrastructure for a developing neighborhood that we're moving into, because it is a neighborhood that is changing, that Oracle's gonna be going in that same neighborhood and community. So we're thinking about putting a road through the property to connect Brick Church and World Baptist Headquarter Boulevard to make sure that there is continuity. And we're thinking about transit, we're thinking about traffic, we're thinking about all those things that the neighborhood and our neighbors are going to be thinking about with us moving, safety, all of these concerns. So,
Right.
But after the design phase, we'll go into construction. Construction will take about 2 years for construction of the facility, and we should be moving in. Right now, tentatively, May of 2026 is the target date for the new facility to be completed. Of course, we have to come back to council for our construction funding. We've only got funding to take us through the architect and design phase. So we're phasing out the funding of this project too. We're trying to be thoughtful and not put too much burden on Metro's capital spending, as well as we phase out the funding for the project in different.
Someone just asked about free parking. Is there going to be plenty of parking? Because right now, I think when you go to juvenile court, you have to usually pay across the street, and you have to pay for it.
It is a pay lot, and it is a burden on our litigants, which is, I mean, most of our litigants really can't afford to pay for parking. And so it will be free parking for juvenile court. Of course, Metro may contract with a parking vendor, and on the weekends it becomes a paid lot because there is some mixed use development that is planned for the area. So one of the attractions for the community is that it will be ample parking, so that parking doesn't spill over into the neighborhoods, curbside in front of people's homes and houses, as they have more restaurants and things that attract people to come into that area.
Okay. All right. So
the second part of your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just national models and looking at national models, there are elements of the campus that we are pulling from different models that we've seen across the country, but we haven't seen anywhere in the country that has a juvenile court, assessment center, safe exchange facility all in one place. And so we are very unique in that way, that we're trying to bring some of the best elements that we've seen and practices across the country into one campus. Is something that we think is pretty unique. And we're trying to become, we've done some research. There's no official certification for being a trauma-informed juvenile court, but that is something that we're currently working on with just our current policies, our staff training. We want to be the first official trauma-informed juvenile court in the country.
Very interesting. Okay, good for you. All right, so let's switch for a minute. Let's talk about My Brother's Keeper.
Sure.
Tell me about that program for people who, and I don't know much about it either, but I've heard about it. Tell me, what is this program and what is it doing? So
for me, My Brother's Keeper, it's kind of unique how it came together with my transition from the mayor's office to the juvenile court clerk's office. But going into that office, I have my state mandated responsibilities. I feel a social responsibility to go outside the walls of court and do some preventative work to make sure that young people aren't coming in contact with our court in the first place. And that was really my biggest motivation for becoming as involved with My Brother's Keeper as I have. But My Brother's Keeper is an initiative that was started by President Obama in 2014 when he was in the White House. It was he started it after a couple months after the murder of Trayvon Martin. And it's the initiative. The target or the goal of the initiative is to improve achievement for boys and young men of color. And the reason that demographic was really spotlighted through this initiative is because that demographic had the highest disparities when it came to educational, economic development, or incarceration stats in the country. And so, so the work was a challenge issued to about 200. It was a challenge issued to cities by President Obama when he was in the White House. 250 cities answered the challenge at the time. And Nashville joined the challenge around 2015. Carl Dean was mayor. We joined. I'm not going to say it was an inopportune time, but it was a couple months before Mayor Dean was actually due to be term limited. So we didn't really get the program up and running or off the ground like we wanted to. Francis Guest, late Francis Guest, who many people know, he was really kind of the driving factor that was pushing Mayor Dean to in this challenge. And so he passed away that summer of 2015. And that took a lot of steam out of it. But then Carl Dean's term ending really took a lot of steam out of it. And we had the mayoral transition. By the time we really got a grasp in Mayor Berry's office and started to research the program more, President Obama was going out of office in 2016. We had just done our youth violence summit in 2016, and we had done a lot of that work. And one of the things coming out of the summit was for us to get re-engaged with My Brother's Keeper. And of course, we didn't know what was going to happen with My Brother's Keeper at that time. President Obama finally decided that it was going to be one of the main initiatives of the Obama Foundation after his term in the White House. And once it was housed in the Obama Foundation, Nashville got invited to come out to a national convening in Oakland, California in 2018 called MBK Rising. 2018 was the time I transitioned over into the juvenile court clerk's office. And so I went to the national convening because I had been doing some work on it when I was in the mayor's office. Ashford Hughes went out to the national convening. We took 3 staff members from the Oasis Center went out, and 4 program participants from the real program at Oasis went out to the convening with us. And it was really life-changing to be able to talk to other cities across the country that were doing this work, seeing the impact that they were having, seeing how they built the infrastructure in their city to do this work. So My Brother's Keeper, the prescribed version of My Brother's Keeper is a collective impact model. It's not a nonprofit in itself, but it's a collection of nonprofits coming together around this idea of achievement for boys and young men of color. And so here in Nashville, part of our alliance, Big Brother, I'm just gonna name a few. Every time I start naming, I leave someone out. So I apologize to anyone that I leave out. Blame it on my head, not my heart. But Big Brothers Big Sisters, Oasis Center, Urban League of Middle Tennessee, Backfield in Motion, Preston Taylor Ministries, the YMCA of Middle Tennessee, Men Together at the YWCA. I'm gonna stop there because I'm gonna start forgetting people. But just to name a few, those are the type of programs that are part of our alliance here locally. We created a volunteer steering committee to really drive the work, and we break out our work into 2 committees. So the national model prescribes goals on a spectrum of cradle to career. So the 6 milestones that they've identified are making sure that their early childhood, positive early childhood development opportunities for families, making sure that every child is reading at grade level by 3rd grade, making sure that students are graduating high school, ready for college and career, making sure they have access to post-secondary training and education, make sure they have access to employment opportunities after post-secondary training and education. And if anywhere along that spectrum, they fall off the path, making sure they have second chance opportunities to get back on the right path. And so they asked each city that accepts the challenge to commit to a minimum of 2 of those milestones that you're going to focus and put resources into. For Nashville, the 2 milestones that we chose were the literacy milestone, so making sure every child it's reading at grade level by third grade, and the college and career readiness, making sure they're graduating high school ready for college and career. And so we built subcommittees from our steering committee around those two milestones. And that's how we figure out the work that we're doing. I'm going to give you one example, and then I'll let you may have some more questions. One example of the type of collaborations that we try to build within My Brother's Keeper. And I'll say that, so after 2018, we came back, we started building our steering committee, we started getting commitments from nonprofits that wanted to be a part of this work. 2019, we started building up and strategizing. So we created a strategy and action, what we call our playbook, but it's our action plan. And February 2020 is when we did a relaunch of this work. And then we went right into the pandemic a month later. So we kind of, we felt almost defeated a lot of times trying to get this work going, but we never really lost focus of the need and the reason why this work is important. And so we have kind of persevered and shown resiliency through all of that. But now we're at a point where we are building collaborations. We've established a fund at the Community Foundation so that we can gather resources to help push the work that we're doing. But one example that I wanted to get into is called Books Brothers. And so around our literacy component, we were having a conversation with the United Way. We were doing an event called Fatherhood Friday with Dr. Michael Pratt. He's the principal over at Stratford High School now. He was the assistant principal at East High when we started doing this event, but it was called Fatherhood Fridays. We would take men into school on Fridays, which Friday is the day of the week in elementary schools that has the highest absenteeism. And we wanted to combat some of the absenteeism by creating an event where students wanted to pressure their parents to get them to school. That was going to be fun, cool, but we wanted to do it around literacy. So we have men come into the school Friday mornings, we provide breakfast, and we read with the kids in their library. We started out pulling books from the shelves in the library, and we would just read, and we tried to pull books that had characters of color so that students could really see themselves in the book. Eventually, we got to a point where we were buying books that the students could take home with them from the event. And so we were doing this at Buena Vista Elementary. We were talking with Dr. Pratt, like, man, so many other schools want us to do this. They're seeing the pictures on social media. How can we get into more schools? And he was like, man, it's just one of me. Like, I can't do. And I was like, okay, let's see if we can find some people to help us with resources and figure out how we could. And so we took the conversation to the United Way. Once we went into the pandemic, it was hard to Dr. Pratt really didn't want to do the model virtually. He just didn't feel comfortable. He said, you know, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to have the same impact. Let's just hold off. But United Way really wanted to do something during the pandemic. And so we started just having innovative conversations. And the initiative that came out of those conversations was called Books Brothers. And so we decided to partner with United Way, National Public Library, the National Public Library Foundation, Ingram Content Group, and Nashville Soccer Club were all a part of this collaboration. But we wanted to create a video library of men of color role modeling reading. And so we worked with Ingram Content Group. They worked with the publishers to get permission for us to actually record people reading their books and distribute those videos on the internet. Ingram Content Group also provided the books. United Way built a website to be kind of the infrastructure for how people could sign up to participate and also upload their videos. And National Public Library and the Public Library Foundation, they funded the work to do the post-production of all the videos. And so if you wanted to sign up, you went onto the website, you would sign up, I want to be a Books Brother volunteer. You would choose your book. We would send you the book in the mail. You would use your smartphone or your tablet, record your own video of you reading the book. You would upload it to a cloud drive. National Public Library would come in and they would do post-production, making all the videos uniform, basically. And they posted it on their YouTube channel and on Metro 3 of Men of Color Reading. And these videos were made available to teachers for use in their classrooms. They were made available for parents to use at home. And we really pushed the videos to really try to encourage kids to just think reading is cool and fun, something that they just grow that love of reading so that they will be open to the instruction of phonics and just building their literacy skills when their teachers were trying to talk to them about that in class. And so that's just one example. We have started the Fatherhood Friday event back. We actually changed the name to Rise, Read, and Lead. So we're doing that at Jones, Padilla, Warner Elementary, and Napier Elementary this semester, but we're expanding to Bellshire. We have requests from Cane Ridge and Mount View out in Antioch, and also Amqui Elementary have all reached out to us to try to get us to come into their school. And so we're trying to figure out how we build capacity, how we train other volunteers to help us coordinate, and how we bring in more resources to expand some of those programs.
So if people want to become a part of this program, I get, and it would be both for young people that you're trying to reach out to, that you want to get involved. How do they engage in the program? How do they sign up? And then for people who are interested in learning more, either through volunteering or donating or other things, how do they do that?
Sure. So our website, I'll answer the second question first because it's the easiest. They could just go to our website, and the website is MBK Nashville. MBK stands for My Brother's Keeper. I know we just say MBK a lot. Government, we talk in acronyms, so I'm used to that. But mbknashville.weebly, WEEBLY.com. mbknashville.weebly.com is our website. On the website, you can actually sign up to volunteer. So every time we have an event, we set up a registration page on Eventbrite and we put it on the website. You could actually, a lot of our communication with volunteers is through a GroupMe chat group that we set up. You could sign on to that GroupMe chat group through our website. There's a link. You just click the link and sign up for GroupMe, and you're on our chat group. And you could fill out the pledge. If you're an organization, you want to join our alliance, we have a pledge that you could fill out just to become an organization. We're open to any organization that wants to help us push this work. For young people that want to become involved with our programs, we try to channel, so they could contact us through the website. They could contact anyone affiliated with MBK. And what we try to do is really affiliate them with one of our alliance partner programs that's best gonna meet their needs. So some people come to us for mentorship. We try to channel them through Big Brothers Big Sisters. If they have a specific type of program they're looking for, we may send them to Preston Taylor Ministries or Backfield in Motion. And those are the young people that we build collaborative events around. And so when we do events, we go to our alliance partners and we say, hey, what would your young people like to do? What sort of experience can we create for them?
Okay. So if people, and I'm keeping an eye on my clock, we're almost out of time. For people who really are interested in that, it's mbknashville.weebly.com. That's the best place to find out what's going on. And Weebly is WEEBLY.
Yeah, and our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is at MBK Nashville.
Okay, all right. That sounds really cool. And I know that I really like the concept of lots of different groups participating together with a common vision and a common goal, which is, you don't want duplicative services. You want people focused on what we need to achieve. Yeah. All right. I think it's almost 11, so we are out of time. I appreciate you being on. This is really, really interesting. I love the stuff about juvenile court clerk, because, I think most people don't probably understand how all that works. I like the idea of kind of the envisioning for this new area and how all that's going to work. And I really do appreciate the fact that you're participating and working through My Brother's Keeper, because there are so many needs out there in the community, and we just have to keep trying to address them and trying to help.
There certainly are. And thank you for having me on, Vice Mayor. I'm honored to do it. I hope I could come back if anything new is happening in the future. I appreciate you hosting these conversations for the community, and you know how much I admire you and the work that you've done and the service that you've given to our city. So thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. You're doing great as well. Thank you for all that you do. And anyway, we will not be on next Saturday because it's Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be too stuffed with turkey, but we'll be back the following week as we get close to the holidays. Lonnell, my best to your family. I hope you all have a good holiday as well. And again, if your mom decides that she needs batteries for that clock, you let me know. Okay.
I'll let you know. Happy holidays.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all be safe.
All right.